What's up, YouTube? This is Brian Pfeiffer, aka the Marketing Meathead. And today we're going to talk about the Fyre Festival documentary on Netflix. All right, welcome back. So I happened to be getting ready for bed the other night, and I flipped on Netflix, and there was something I saw on there that caught my attention about this Fyre Festival back in like 2016. It caught my attention for a couple reasons. Number one, I do put on some large events, and I have been in the VIP hosting / party business for the better part of my career, the last 15 years or so. So I wasn't going to watch a whole movie, and I was just going to flip it on, maybe watch 10, 15 minutes, falling asleep. And of course, this thing caught my attention, the Fyre Festival documentary. I just read the headline. I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this. So I ended up watching the whole thing, of course, and stayed up way later than I wanted to. But it is what it is. It was really good, and I'm glad I did, because I wanted to shoot a video and talk about a similar scenario that happened to me. And I think there's a lesson in this story that we can take to the bank in the future. As far as one of my subscribers go, and I think it's important that you listen to this story. And if you haven't watched the Fyre Festival documentary on Netflix, I would highly recommend you go out there and watch it. It's about an hour and a half, and it's actually good, but it's sad at the same time, because I was in a very similar scenario. This happened back to me in 2006, and I got lost a ton of money, and I'll tell you the whole story here in a second. So. Just a real quick thing here on the Fyre Festival. This was a big festival type of event. Ja Rule was involved. I can't remember the main guy's name, but he was like the organizer of this whole thing. And basically, what he did, Ja Rule, and what was the other guy's name? Billy. Yeah, Billy he was the main guy. And basically, what Billy did was like he became like the entrepreneur. He had like this card in New York, was supposed to be a VIP card, and he was running some kind of fraud behind the scenes where people would buy these tickets, like really hard to get tickets, ultimately never get them delivered upon. And then he ultimately got into business with Ja Rule. They went and filmed this, amazing weekend looking package type thing, calling it the Fyre Festival on an island in the Bahamas, and it was supposed to be real exclusive. And ultimately they had no like real world experience like to pull this anything like this off. They ultimately didn't even have permission to do it on the island, and they ended up being a big debacle. And the people that were involved in this documentary talked about how like in the end, like all these people basically didn't get paid. The workers, they had all these deals with people that owned houses on this island where they ultimately ended up on, and none of those people got paid. Restaurant owners, caterers, all the people that were involved with this thing ultimately never got paid. And then of course there was, the main people that were like the organizers of this whole thing that were, being duped by this guy, Billy. And, basically the guy Billy was just running a Ponzi scheme of some sort. And it's really sad. At the end of the day, some of these people were, hardworking people, from the Bahamas, and they don't have a lot of money. There's not a real strong economy down there. They rely on, the tourists and whatnot, and they just got wiped out from this whole thing, and it was really sad. So, but overall, I would highly recommend watching the movie, because I think there's a lesson to be learned here about when you invest money with people and when you trust people with, it's not always just about investing your own money. It could be going to work for somebody, or it could be like partnering with somebody. You better make sure that person is like trustworthy and legit, because this guy made, a celebrity like Ja Rule believe that he was like legit. And other investors in like out of New York City, he had them believing that this guy was like a really big entrepreneur, like really legit. And at the end of the day, this guy was just basically a con artist, and he was just a really good salesman, and he was sucking people's money. And there was no grounds to the money he was bringing in. He wasn't making any money. And then at the end, ultimately the workers, all his employees got screwed, and then all the people that tried to come down to this festival and took time off work and invested money to go to this festival, they all got basically screwed, and lawsuits came out of this thing and stuff. It was really sad. So I had a similar scenario like this happen to me in 2006. I invested into a nightclub. The nightclub in Chicago was called Crescendo, and this guy, Anthony DeMasi was his name. He was he's kind of one of those dudes that had another nightclub that was successful. I was doing Wednesday nights there, and things were things were legit. Everything seemed good. He had this like hedge fund company. Then he also had like a foundation, like a charity company called the Tsunami Foundation. So he had all this stuff that like made him look so legit. A nice office and tall building downtown Chicago, and everything looked good. I mean, I'd saved up some money. I borrowed a little money from my parents. I had refied my house back in 2006. The market had gone up. I think I bought my house in 2002, and by 2006 it had gone up a lot in Chicago. This was kind of like toward the peak of the bubble. And, I had a couple $100,000 available in equity in my home, and I pulled that out. And ultimately, I invested $300,000 in this nightclub. Okay. And here was a letter that I sent. This was after the fact, but this was the letter I actually sent to the lawyers that kind of picked this thing up after the fact. And ultimately, I had invested $254,000 on a check and about $45,000 in cash, $45,001, a total investment of $300,000. And then ultimately, on the back door, I had to invest another like $30,000 in legal fees to try to recoup some of this money. So $330,000 I invested in this back in 2006. Okay, so ultimately, what happened was they got the thing was under construction. I was helping them even design the place. I was in there during the construction. Everything was getting built, and then everything started falling apart for this guy Anthony DeMasi. What happened was a couple of the people that had invested in this hedge fund had requested their money out, and he didn't produce the money right away. So they threw up some red flags. They started getting a little bit leery. Some whistleblowers kind of went in and I think maybe alerted the SEC or the FBI, and then things started to fall apart really quick because what had happened was this guy was kind of running a Ponzi scheme, and he was getting investors' money, and then he was paying out other investors with the new money coming in, and ultimately really wasn't producing the kind of money that he was claiming he was making, and it just went south for him really quick, and I got tied up into this massive case. Overall, I think he took in about $12 million from people in terms of like what he scammed out of people. I was 300 of that 12 million. He got some other people. This one big investor, this guy Kelly was his name, and he got him for over $1 million. He was the largest investor in Crescendo. I was the second largest investor. And anyway, the whole deal was supposed to be about like 1.2 or 1.5 million. So I was going to be like a quarter owner when I made the investment of 300,000. Ultimately, I think he took in like $6 million from different people in this Crescendo investment because he was just running this Ponzi scheme. So and it was really unfortunate for me. This then ended up getting into like a bankruptcy type of court situation, and ultimately the lawyers ended up getting most of the money that was even left over from this guy. And at the end of the day, I got a check 3-4 years later. It came in the mail for like around 12 grand. So I had put in 330,000 and got back like 12 grand total, and I haven't seen a dollar since. So loss wise, you can chalk it up with interest and everything, probably closer to around 350,000. Because if I had that money in some kind of a investment at even 2 or 3%, I would have made money on that money over that 4 or 5 years, and probably walked with about 350,000. So that was a huge hit for me back in 2006. Then the economy took a dump. 2008, 2009, my business took a dump, and everything went down the crapper, and I never got any of this money back. And that was life-changing money for me. Back then, even now, an extra 300 and some $1,000 I could make, a business investment with that money, and potentially double or triple it over the next couple of years. And I could have done that back then, and it probably would have altered the course of my entire life in terms of what I could have done with that money. And it was sad. It is really sad, and I really felt for some of these people in this video. Not only the concert goers that got ripped off, most of them anywhere from 3 to 7 grand it seemed like, and then there was these restaurant owner, this girl Marion. She said she lost over $50,000 for somebody that lives in the Bahamas. That's life-changing money, just like that 300 grand was life-changing money for me. And it's kind of cool to see here. It looks like there's some action going on with a GoFundMe. Money's kind of rolling in for these people now that this documentary came out. So, this documentary came out, and now these people are setting up these GoFundMes, and people are actually donating because they saw the movie, and they actually felt like, wow, I'd like to donate to this person's cause, help them recover some of the money. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, there's actually people out here that are actually well off, and they can give to people that are in more need, and they're doing that. There's obviously people that these are like not bad people. They're not giving giving this to like, people that are like taking advantage of the government or stuff like that. These are hardworking people that, try to do good, work, 24 hours a day in some cases to help build this festival, and then ultimately got screwed by this guy, Billy. So, it's one of those situations that, I got caught up in something like this, and, I wanted to make this video today. So, you as a viewer, and, whenever you're seeing this, maybe it's a year or two down the road, I don't know, really, really look into the people that you're either working for or investing with or partnering with. You'll find over time that there is going to be some bad apples out there. And it's very unfortunate. Everybody's heard of Bernie Madoff and that whole scandal. That was another level of epicness. That happened shortly after I got scandaled on my, deal with this guy, Anthony Damasi. And ultimately, this guy Damasi did like 4 or 5 years in prison, I think. And but that still didn't get me my money back. Yeah, it was, a little bit of closure on the case. He did 4 or 5 years in federal prison, but didn't get me my $350,000 back that I lost. I'll never see that money again. So it's just really unfortunate, man. It sucks. It's like when you do get a little bit of money and things start to go, your way, and you start building up a little bit of a nest egg, and you want to make an investment to make more money on your money, that's typically when you get burnt, because you're expecting, an opportunity to, you see an opportunity, somebody presents it to you, and ultimately, in some cases, these people are bad apples or really good salesmen, and they're just not running a legit business. So, the victims are always the people that put in the money or started the job. Like, there was a lot of people in this Fyre Festival documentary that were working for this app that they had developed with Ja Rule and whatnot, and all those people, they invested their time and their energy, and probably turned down other opportunities that they could have had, and ultimately ended up just being completely screwed. One of the guys said he even got sued by Amex for $250,000, and he was just one of the guys that was involved with setting this whole thing up. He wasn't the main guy that was controlling the money or anything. So, but it's really sad to see, and there's really no way to tell like the good and the bad. You really just have to do your due diligence, and before you invest any large sum of money, I would highly, highly recommend, or even take a job of high caliber with maybe one of these new type startup type of companies. Make sure that the foundation that it's built on is legit. Don't be afraid to have a lawyer look into it, or potentially even look, ask for documents as far as like financials and whatnot goes, because this is your life. I mean, if you waste 1 or 2 years of your life, like some of these people did, working for this app, that's life altering money for you at the end of the day, because now you have nothing at the end of these 2 years. I mean, yeah, maybe you can go out and find another job, whatever. But if you invested a bunch of money like some of the investors did, just like myself, that money's gone. It's gone forever, and you can't ever get it back. So it's just really sad. So hopefully you guys learned something today, and take this as a lesson. My story and this Fyre Festival story. Go ahead and watch it if you haven't already, but take this to heart about upcoming investments or job opportunities or partnerships, and hopefully you guys learned something from this. So if you could share this video and like it, I'd really appreciate it. If you are new to the channel, go ahead and leave me a comment below. I'd like to welcome you to the channel. And if you have any stories you'd like to share about getting scammed by a similar scenario like this, I'd like to hear them in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. Bang the notifications bell. I am the Marketing Meathead. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.